Hello, Rick Medina of Alien Play Games, here to demonstrate the Superbeings Jumbo card game, the Fast Play game. This game is the starter game to the main game, and it's geared around not using the Superbean effects of the super cards or the battle cards. So it is a simplified version of the main game. It does have a variety of the, it'll teach you the basics of the main game, and it's absolutely fun to play. So let's dig right in. All right, so when you do get the base package, you open up, you'll see the Fast Play rules. It's just a 4-page leaflet. Basically, it's real simple to play. Let me demonstrate it for you. All right, so basically when you start a Fast Play game, each player creates or builds a 6 super master deck. Okay, so I put you saw the cards out there in formation, how the game is set up, but we're gonna create that right now. All right, so when you come to play, you'll pick just any cards of your library, and the main thing is you're gonna need to have 3 of your starting guys, the frontliners, has to have a rank of 3 or less. This is similar to the main game, so that'll teach you that. So you'll just pick 3 guys that are 3 supers with less than 3 or less. The remaining 3 can be any size rank, and they can be in any order. There's no shuffling required. Okay, so that creates your starting super deck, or considered master deck. And then the same thing over here. So I've already got it going. Basically, this is the we're playing A life versus N life, and just staying consistent with the storyline going, the Alliance Wars. All right, so we're gonna start with my 3 supers here. We have basically 2 female supers and 1 tyrant in the middle, rivalist. And then we have over here we have 1 beast, 1 android, and 1 clone super. So we have Nerona, Mollusk, Vertigo against Princess Nerona, Bionic Rivalist, and Sensational Stars. I should say Cute and Cunning Nerona, No Friends Mollusk, and Zap You Vertigo. All right, so there you have it. And then over here, those 3 are waiting to come in. Basically, this is like your super deck in the main game, where you're going to draw from this pool of 3 cards here, providing you need to. So the objective of this game is quite simple. You're just going to knock out, you have to knock out the front line, the 3, or 3 guys, 3 supers. That's it, and the winner is declared. If both players are defeated at the same time, the player who's on offense wins the game. All right, so that is how it's done. And like the main game, you're going to be using the jumbo big die here, the D12s, and the little 0 token to monitor your attack credits and your action credits. So this is important to recognize this scenario, because that's how it's done in the main game as well. All right, so for the camera, we've got everything in there. So let's begin. Basically, the first player gets, how it works is that it's a phase-based game like the main game. There's 3 phases in the game. Phase 1 is your action phase. You're gonna get 3 actions per turn. So you'll just say 3. You'll mark it 3 like that. And then I'll start on this side for the example of the game. And so on my first turn, I can use my actions. Basically, your game setup is already done. It's all set up here. Your front lines has been established. And I will, one thing to note is that when I'm going first, I would have put my 3 here already, and then the second player who drew second would be, could put his players in any position, to match up, because that's important. Basically, the attack path is direct super in front of the other. So you can't attack here to here, you have to go directly in front. Now you can move your frontliners as you wish with an action. So we'll get into that now. We'll describe the actions. There's only a handful of actions in this game, so it does use some of what the main game does. Basically, 1 action, it allows you to flip a character over to POW mode. All right. So we have the defense side pro mode, flipping over to POW mode on offense is 1 action. Now you cannot flip if the character has, or the super has, damage. All right, so if just say you have 3 damage, this would not be an option to do. You'd have to heal this character down to 0, okay? Or you'd have to, yeah, basically that. All right, so going forward, we've shown you a couple actions, 1 to flip, 1 to move. If you had to move 2 characters, that involves 2 movements, so 2 actions there. If you had a vacant spot to move another, you could. Now you can move with the damage, so if you're in either mode and you have damage, you can move. All right, so that's not problem there. Then there's a variety of other things. Let's say you wanted to open a spot up. Like, let's say rival it. Let's say you wanted to take Nanara off the field, bring in the big guy in Phenomai, who's an expert with a 20 pro POW, and he's the biggest guy in the game. So let's say I wanted to do that. Well, there's a way to do that. I can attempt to what they call recycle a super from the front line in this game by rolling a d12. And if I roll higher than the amount of stars that are in the cost over here, this action cost, then that player can be recycled. So I would put Nanara underneath, and then I would have the option of bringing out my next person. So you use a super rank for the actions required to get them out to the front line. This is the cost to create a leader in the main game, and in this game, it's the amount of actions to recycle him. All right, so let's go over that again. I attempted to do her, to bring her off the field using a recycling action maneuver, and I succeeded, because basically if I rolled a 2, then that wouldn't have happened. So rolling the 12 or whatever I did allowed her to do that. So I put her underneath, opening a spot up for perhaps Infeminine come out as soon as I get enough action. So I have 2 here, and I wanted to show that action maneuver early, just so that was one of the a few that there are. So that was good. And so let's proceed. So let's say I have the 2 here, and I want to continue on to attacking. So I would go here, and I wanted to flip rivals as well. So that would bring me to 0. So I would mark my current action credits with this. I could put any number on there and just put over the 0 token. Now, the 0 token's there because this has a 1 through 12 limit, and we'll get into that. If you have more than 12 action or attack credits at any particular time during your turn, you have to expend those and then get down to less than 12. So you can't carry over more than having 12 at one time. All right, so that's the rule. It's in the main game as well. All right, so here we go. So we have covered a few of the actions and as such. So I've left an open spot here that may not be the way you want to play, but for the sake of showing you one of those rule options for actions, recycling, I did. All right, so let's proceed. I've used up my other last 2 actions to flip rivals and stars, and I'm going to continue going to my attack phase. Attack phase says it's you get to roll initiative, and that's in the main game as well. So I'm going to roll here. So I rolled a 10, so I get to 10 attack credits. Okay, so that's my current attack credits. So I rolled pretty well. And now how do we attack? So let's look at stars, for example. Stars has 5 attack credit stars here, and that's the cost to actually allow her to attack. In this case, 5 would allow her in the main game to do her consequences of a serious beatdown attack. So this is considered the main attack in the main game. So, but in this game, it's played out a little differently. We're not going to use those effects, so we're going to just, we could call out and say, well, this is our main attack as such, and then we're going to attack as in this way. So the way this game is played is you're just rolling dice to attack and defend. The defender will use a yellow d12, and the attacker will use a red d20. So in this demonstration, I'll just roll both at the same time. And then you subtract the difference. So 18 times 7 is 11 damage. So stars hits Mollusk with a pretty large hit of damage, larger than 8. So then that forces Mollusk to be flipped. All right, so if there was less than that, you would just put the actual white damage token on the character. Now, as mentioned in the video, if you've watched the card specifications, damage to a particular super less than, in this case, 8 would not flip him, but 9 or higher would. Now, there is no carryover. So in this case, 11 damage was hit. The 3 extra would not be carried over. So this just results in a 0 here. Or the last 3 damage is not actually, it's just negated. So that's important to know, and that's also the rule of the main game. So again, in this case, 11 damage came through, he's hit, and he's flipped, and the remaining 3 is not carried over. So there's no carryover damage in this game, or the main game as well. All right, so here we go. So she succeeded with that attack. Now I go down to 5. So with 5 left, I could hit Mollusk again, attempt to knock him out. So let's try that, just for the sake of the game. So it goes fast, this game. There is no damage shown on the field. So I'm going to roll again, and the opposing player also. So basically 16 and 12. So in this case, Mollusk takes 4 damage, and he's almost knocked out, but not. All right, so he stays in the game. and stars is actually used up the remaining attack credits that I have for my side. So I'll put my 0 out and then boom. So my turn's over. So I have did some good damage to Mollusk, but I did not, and I also left myself vulnerable to be hit next because I didn't have any action credits for the third phase is the action 2 phase, and I could allowed me to flip these guys back to pro mode, defense mode, but I didn't have any remaining. I used those all 3 to flip them both out and to open up a spot here. So always know how many action credits you have, and kind of plan it. If after the attack you need to protect your guys, usually it's a good practice to keep 1 or 2 actions so you can put these guys in pro mode if necessary. So in the case of this game, we're just going to move fast. All right, so now this side goes first. It goes now. I get the 3 actions. I can heal Mollusk 3 if I wanted to, or I could do some. I can do. I'll just flip. Let's say I flip Vertigo over in case I go for a complete knockout here. In case I roll well, nice. So now that's 2 left. All right, and I will leave my 2 there. All right, because Mollusk is so small, power 4, that it's almost just healing them 2 isn't going to result much as a good strategy, in my opinion. All right, so let's go ahead and proceed to the attack phase. I'm going to roll for initiative. I rolled 11. That's a pretty good roll. So I roll a 3 or 2. 2 I can't even attack. Well, these guys are all 3, so they can attack. So that's pretty good. That's good to have small guys at the beginning, so you can get easier to attack with. All right, so now I have 11 here, and I have 2 also for the action credits. So with 11, I have some choices. Okay, so let's say I want to attack directly from Vertigo to Rivalist. So let's do that. So Vertigo costs 3, so I'll mark this down to 8. All right, so always do that. When you do your turn, you're always kind of doing what I'm doing. You declare your attack, you mark down your current counter for your credits. In this case, the attack credits. All right, so let's roll some dice. So basically, I got to get the wrong one here. So Vertigo hitting Rivalist, boom. So we got 6, and that's a 9. Yeah, 9 against 1, so 8 damage. So Rivalist has POW 7, so he's hit hard. So he's knocked out. Vertigo knocks out Rivalist in 1 shot. His telepathic hypno ray hits them. All right, so now that's the first knockout of the game. So you put this card outside the battlefield. This is considered the battlefield. Even in the main game, it's always considered the battlefield, the front line. And then you notice in this game, there's no back line, guys. Just 3 front line. So it's a good example of how to play the main game, but it just gets you right into the attack and defensive action. All right, so with Vertigo knocking out Rivalist, we have another rule of this game is that he's immediately leaves the game. Basically, he knocks out the player, he also leaves, and he's recycled or put back underneath the super deck. All right, so he can come back to the game, but he's there now, and that leaves that spot open. So now, that just gives you, on offense, some requirement to look at your situation, because if you leave if he's the last guy, and this was the last guy, on offense he would have won, but if he had 2 here and that was your last guy to attack, then you would have lost, so you wouldn't have done that. So again, you can't leave your front line with 0 supers. All right, so here we go. So that's important to see that where you knock out the super knocking out a player. In this case, Rivals being knocked out from Vertigo. They both leave the field. All right, but one is knocked out. All right, so let's continue. Basically, I have now I have 8 here, and Mollusk can actually knock out stars to win the game. It's only 3, so actually it's a good chance of doing so. I've left myself with only 1 super by taking that 1. That's why I mentioned earlier that it might have been my best to it. So, but let's go ahead and continue. Mollusk is almost knocking it, with 4 damage, is going to proceed to try to return the favor to stars. So let's go ahead down to 5 and roll. See what happens. Stars is a POW 9. She's pretty strong on the offensive, on attack side. All right, so 5 and 5. So 0 damage was actually handled. So Stars just showed face and said, "Mollusk, go away." All right, so now in this case, he has 1 more chance to knock out Stars. Might as well try. So 3 goes down to 2, and for the win, let's see what happens. You have to roll a 9 difference. So it's a pretty big difference. So 20 hits 5, boom, there he goes. Wallace finds a way with his master strategist to knock out stars to win the game. Boom. All right, so that's fast play. Basically, it's you'll find that depending on the rolling of the dice, these games can be quick, or they can actually get prolonged enough to where you can bring out a big guy with three actions per turn. In this case, I would have to wait a couple turns to build up for Infinimai. It would have been harder to knock him out because 20 and 19 certainly a big variance. So that's the demonstration of the Superbeings fast play game. And when you're ready to move on from this game, you'll play the main game with all the effects and battle cards.